Have you ever looked around and thought, why don't I feel as happy as I used to? Maybe you've got more free time now, the kids are grown, the career chapter has closed. But still, something's missing. That quiet excitement about life, the little spark of daily joy. It just doesn't feel as bright as it once did. And you can't quite put your finger on why. You're not alone in that feeling. So many people after 60 experience this invisible shift, where the days are full, but the heart feels a little emptier. It's not sadness exactly. It's more like a slow fading of joy. And here's the surprising part. It often doesn't come from what we do, but from what quietly creeps in without us even noticing. That's why today we're going to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention. The silent killers of joy after 60. These aren't dramatic, obvious problems. They're sneaky little habits or mindsets that quietly settle in and slowly drain your energy, your confidence, and even your reason to smile. But once we shine a light on them, you can begin to take that power back. So, let's get into it. Let's talk heart to heart about the first trap that steals joy from so many people as they get older. It's one of the most dangerous, and one of the easiest to fall into without realizing. It's isolation. Now, I'm not talking about being physically alone all the time. You could be surrounded by people, family, neighbors, even a spouse, and still feel disconnected inside. That deep human need for connection, for being truly seen and heard, doesn't go away with age. If anything, it grows stronger. And yet, life after 60 often brings unspoken silences. Friends move away. Some pass on. Family gets busier. Calls slow down. Visits get shorter. And without even noticing, we start shrinking our world, thinking, well, this is just how it is now. But it doesn't have to be. Loneliness doesn't have to be your new normal. Reaching out doesn't make you needy. It makes you human. Whether it's joining a walking group, calling up an old friend, volunteering at the local library, or even just chatting with someone new at the grocery store. It matters. You matter. I knew a woman named Lillian. Lived alone, didn't drive anymore, rarely left the house. One day, her niece got her into a community knitting circle, just once a week. But something shifted. Her eyes brightened. Her stories returned. That little spark of joy, the one she thought was gone, was right there, wrapped in a ball of yarn and laughter. Human connection is healing. It keeps the mind sharp, the heart warm, and the spirit alive. Don't let the silence trick you into believing you're forgotten. You're not. And the more you reach out, the more your world will gently open again. Now that brings me to another trap, a sneaky one that disguises itself as rest, but really robs us of life's flavor. It's routine, not structure, which is helpful, but the kind of stuck-in-a-rut routine that flattens every day into the same color. Wake up, sit, eat, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. There's comfort in routine, sure. But when every day looks the same, when nothing surprises us, when we stop learning or trying or laughing at something new, that's when joy begins to wither. Our brains crave stimulation even after 60. Our hearts crave variety, even if we say we're content. I once met a retired teacher named Jorge who told me, after I stopped working, I thought I wanted peace and quiet. But after a few months, I realized I'd mistaken boredom for calm. So he started learning guitar, just a few chords a day. Not to become a musician, but to feel alive again. That spark? It came back. Try something, anything that breaks your routine. A new hobby, a different walking route, a new kind of book, even just switching where you sit in your living room. It might sound silly, but shaking up the ordinary creates room for the extraordinary. And joy loves to sneak into those little changes. If you're feeling like you're just going through the motions each day, that's not how your golden years are supposed to feel. These years are your chance to rediscover yourself, to explore, to breathe in life differently. You're not too old. You're too alive to live in autopilot. And speaking of autopilot, the next silent trap is one we'll often deny because we've lived through so much, learned so much, but it still gets us. We'll talk about that next. But before we continue, let me just say, if any part of this is resonating with you, if you've ever felt like your spark has dimmed a little, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. There's always a way to bring joy back into your life, one small shift at a time. If this message speaks to your heart, I invite you to join this community by subscribing to the channel. There's a lot more we can explore together, more ways to stay happy, healthy, and empowered through every chapter of life. So tap that subscribe button and let's keep walking this path side by side. Now let's talk about that third trap, the one that often hides in plain sight, wearing a mask of confidence. It's something we rarely admit to, but it affects so many of us more deeply than we'd like to believe. It's the belief that it's too late for me. This thought doesn't always show up loudly. It creeps in quietly, like a whisper in the back of your mind. Maybe it sounds like, why bother trying something new at my age? Or, that kind of happiness isn't meant for people like me anymore. Or even worse, what's the point? That mindset? That quiet surrender? It's one of the most dangerous traps of all. You see, somewhere along the way, the world starts treating older people like they've had their turn. Like growth, excitement, and adventure belong to the young. But here's the truth. Joy doesn't come with an expiration date. Dreams don't come with deadlines. And fulfillment, that belongs to anyone who's still breathing, still waking up each morning with a heartbeat full of possibility. I remember talking to a gentleman named Carl, 78 years old, widowed, quiet. He told me, I thought my story was over. He'd spent the last few years just passing time, not really living. But then one day he signed up for a photography class at the senior center. He didn't even know how to use a smartphone camera. But something about capturing the world through a lens made him feel awake again. That one small decision led him to meet new people, share his photos online, and even travel to a nearby national park, just to photograph the trees in autumn. He didn't turn back the clock. He turned up the volume of his life. If you ever find yourself thinking it's too late, I want you to challenge that thought. Because often, the only thing standing between us and our joy isn't our age. It's our mindset. The truth is, every day above ground is a fresh page. You can start a new chapter anytime you choose. You are not done. And that leads us to the fourth trap. This one might sting a little, not because it's meant to hurt, but because it's so easy to fall into without realizing it. It's holding on to resentment. Now I know, life isn't always fair. People can hurt us, sometimes deeply. Maybe it was a friend who betrayed your trust, a family member who drifted away, a child who never calls, or maybe you feel bitterness toward your own past, wishing you'd made different choices. And when you've carried those emotions for years, or even decades, it can start to feel normal, like a quiet background hum in your soul. But the truth is, resentment is heavy. It drains you without you even noticing. It takes up space in your heart that joy is meant to fill. I once met a woman, Joyce, who hadn't spoken to her sister in over 20 years. They'd argued about something neither of them could even remember clearly. When her sister got sick, Joyce had a choice: keep holding on to her pride or let it go and reach out. She chose to call. And you know what? They cried, they laughed, they caught up on 2 decades of silence. She told me later, I didn't realize how much that bitterness was weighing me down until it was gone. Forgiveness isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's about choosing your peace over your pain. It's about saying, I deserve to feel light again. And yes, sometimes you have to forgive people who won't apologize. Not for them, but for you. Because you deserve a heart that's free to feel joy again. If that's hard for you, and believe me, I get it, start small. Write a letter you never send. Say a prayer for peace. Look at that memory and say, I release you. Let joy have some space again. And let me say this. Just because life has handed you some bruises doesn't mean joy can't still live inside you. Some of the most radiant people I've ever met are the ones who've seen the darkest days and chose to smile anyway. There's a quiet strength in choosing joy, in saying, I will not let the past steal today. That strength lives in you. So if you've been feeling disconnected, if your days feel dull or your heart feels heavy, know this, you're not broken. You've just fallen into a few traps that so many others have too. But the beauty is that you can step out of them anytime you choose. One small action, one brave thought, one new habit at a time. If anything here has stirred something inside you, maybe a little hope, or even just a thought like, maybe I'm ready for more, then take that spark and protect it. That spark is your joy calling you home. And if this conversation has helped you see things in a new light, I'd be honored if you joined this growing community of people who are choosing to live fully at every age. Click that subscribe button and stay with us. We're walking this path together, and there's so much more ahead. You know, when we really stop and look at these joy killers, those quiet traps like isolation, stale routines, the lie that it's too late, or the heavy weight of resentment, it becomes clear that they don't arrive all at once. They sneak in. A little loneliness here, a bit of routine there. And before we know it, the joy that used to light up our lives has dimmed, almost without warning. But here's what I want you to hold on to. None of these things define you. They're not your identity, and they're not permanent. They're just patterns. And the beautiful thing about patterns is, they can be changed. Maybe you're thinking, that all sounds good, but I don't know where to start. That's okay. Starting small doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Sometimes, the simplest shifts create the biggest waves. It might mean saying yes to a coffee date, even when you feel nervous. It might mean waking up tomorrow and choosing to do one thing differently. Just one thing. Maybe it's moving your chair to face the window so you catch the sunrise, or calling someone just to say hi, or cracking open that book you've had sitting on the shelf for years. And don't underestimate the power of new energy. Music you haven't heard in decades, a movie that once made you laugh, a recipe that smells like home. These are not just comforts. They are bridges back to your joy. And if you've been carrying the weight of bitterness or sadness, and it feels too heavy to put down all at once, that's okay too. You don't have to fix everything in a day. Just loosen your grip a little. Let some light in. Forgive yourself for the time you've spent hurting. You were doing the best you could with what you had. And that's enough. One of the most important things I've learned from talking to so many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond is this. Joy doesn't belong to youth. It belongs to the open-hearted. And that can be anyone, at any age. The people who seem to glow, even in their 80s, 90s, or older, they're not luckier than the rest. They've just made the quiet decision not to let the hard parts of life harden their spirit. You can do that too. You can choose softness over bitterness, curiosity over boredom, connection over comfort zones. You can choose joy again, even if it's been a while. And please don't wait for someone else to give you permission. You don't need it. You've lived through so much. You've earned your freedom to feel good, to laugh loudly, to try boldly, to love fully, and to live in a way that makes your soul feel alive. This stage of life isn't about fading out. It's about shining differently. You've climbed the mountain. Now you get to enjoy the view. And there's still so much beauty waiting to be discovered. Inside you, around you, and in the people whose lives you haven't even touched yet. So if this conversation has stirred something in you, if it's reminded you that your joy matters, that your story isn't over, then take that as your sign. Start now. Start small, but start. Because joy is never far away. It's just been waiting for you to notice it again. And before we end, I want to say this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for yourself, for taking the time to reflect, to listen, and maybe even to begin again. It takes courage to do that, and I see that in you. If this message meant something to you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need it too. And if you haven't yet, I invite you to join this beautiful community by clicking that subscribe button. We're all about growing stronger, wiser, and happier. Together. And your presence here makes this space better. So keep choosing joy, keep believing in your worth, and keep living with intention because the best parts of your journey might still be ahead. Here's to living your best life. At any age. You deserve it.